The young nurse held his hand as he passed. Then he gave her life a new beginning. The monitors hummed in a steady hush, a thin green line rising and falling like a tired tide. Emma Reyes adjusted the blanket on the man in room 412 and tried not to think about the clock. Night shift stretched time, but Thomas Archer gathered it, pulling the hours into something simple and human. He watched the ceiling as if it held weather, and he listened when Emma spoke, even when breathing cost him. "Pain today?" she asked. "Not too bad," he whispered. "The world's quieter when you stop fighting it." Emma checked his oxygen, then the IV. She'd been a nurse 3 years, and the work had already taught her a truth about bravery. It rarely looked like heroics. Most nights, it looked like someone choosing to tell the truth about how much it hurts. "Your daughter called," Emma said. "She's on a late flight." "Julia," he said, letting the name rest between them. "She'll want to make a list. Tell her she can't manage the sky." "I'll try," Emma said. A winter rain tapped at the window. "Would you sit?" he asked. She pulled the visitor chair close and took his hand. It was dry and warm. His pulse beat steady against her fingers. She focused on that rhythm because it kept her own breathing even. "You've been kind," he said, "more than the job asks." "It's not just a job," she said. "I know," he answered. "That's how I can tell you were meant for it." A code alarm cried somewhere down the hall and then quieted. The room held. "Emma," he said, and something in the way he said her name made her straighten. "When my wife was dying, a nurse sat with me through a night. She told me stories when I couldn't think. After Joan was gone, I tried to find her and failed." "I'm sorry," Emma said. "Don't be. I think life hands the thanks to someone else later. Maybe that's why I was sent you." She glanced at the monitor. Heart rate slow. Oxygen holding. He lifted his hand slightly, seeking pressure, and she squeezed. "I don't want to be alone," he said. "You won't be," she answered. "I'm right here." He nodded, eyes slipping to the window where a neon taxi drifted through rain. He closed his eyes, a long blink that stayed. His breathing slowed, then found a softer path. "Can you tell me something true?" he asked, eyes still closed. "What kind of true?" "Something small," he said. "The small truths hold things together." She thought, then said, "When I was 10, my mother taught me to braid in the laundromat. I practiced on a mop. I wanted to make something neat out of a mess." He laughed, a brief warm sound. "That's perfect," he said. "I used to tune pianos. They breathed together." Emma told him about the laundromat's radio that played oldies on Tuesdays. He told her about fog in Maine, walking on its toes across harbors. When his fingers loosened, she tightened her grip. "Thomas," she whispered. He opened his eyes. Clear. "Emma," he said, "if I don't wake up, promise you'll tell my daughter I wasn't afraid. Tell her she did enough. There's a letter in my suitcase for her, and an envelope with your name." Her heart stumbled. "Mine? I'm old," he said, smiling. "I have a right to estrange." "Okay," she whispered. "I promise." He exhaled, a small surrender. "Will you hold my hand?" he asked, as if he hadn't noticed she never let go. "Yes," she said. His thumb moved once over her knuckles, a slow farewell. His chest rose and fell, lighter each time. Rain gathered on the glass until the city blurred. "Do you think," he said, eyes half closed, "that we go where the sound is?" "What sound?" "The one we loved most," he answered. "Joan loved the shore. I hope there's a shore." "I hope so too," Emma said. A long pause, then another. The monitor traced its careful green hill, then a plain. Emma leaned close, listening for the softest thing in the room. Breath. Then maybe only the memory of breath. She felt his pulse one last time. "Thomas?" she whispered. The quiet that followed was whole. No panic, only the gentle insistence of rain and the warm weight of his hand in hers. She sat with him, because leaving would have felt like a lie. She kept his hand between both of hers until the charge nurse stood in the doorway. Dr. Lynn Park pronounced, voice low. Later, Emma folded the sheets, smoothed his hair, and thanked him under her breath for letting her be there. In the family room, she met Julia Archer, who arrived with wet hair and a carry-on. The daughter did not cry at first. She listened when Emma told her about the last hour and the shore. When Emma handed Julia the letter, the woman pressed it to her chest and said, "Thank you for seeing my father." "He saw me too," Emma said. Then Julia gave Emma a second envelope, thick, with her name in Thomas's uneven hand. Emma slid it into her pocket without opening it. At dawn, she found a quiet corner near a window. She opened the envelope. Inside, there was a short note, a key on a brass ring, and a folded deed. Carefully, Emma read the note first. The paper smelled faintly of old books. In Thomas's hand, it said, "Emma, if you're reading this, the night was gentle. You once said you like to make something neat out of a mess. I have a small mess that needs kindness. The key belongs to a place in Ogunquit, Maine. It is not grand, but it has a good window and honest light. After Joan died, I dreamed of a room where people could sit in quiet and be heard. I never finished it. Perhaps you can." Emma held the key. Dull brass. Stamped 7B. The deed was folded around a map with a small X near a curve of shore. She traced the line with one finger and tried the words out loud. A room for listening. The floor outside the nurse's station buzzed with morning. Emma tucked the papers into her locker. Her phone buzzed, a text from her mother. "Call when you can. Rent is due Friday." Emma sent a heart and typed, "Will call after shift." During handoff, the charge nurse studied Emma's face. "Go home," she said. "Sleep. I'll page you if we need you." "I will," Emma said. Outside, rain thinned to mist. Instead of waiting for the bus, Emma walked the long way home, thinking. By the time she reached her apartment in Jamaica Plain, her hair was damp. She placed the key on the windowsill and the deed beneath a book. Her roommate, Ava Lee, lifted her headphones and smiled. "Plot twist?" Ava asked. "Huge," Emma said, and told her about Thomas, the last hour, Julia, the envelope, the map. "Want me to Google Ogunquit?" Ava said. Later, Emma said. First, sleep. She slept until evening. A voicemail waited. "Emma Reyes, this is Daniel Pratt, attorney for the estate of Thomas Archer. When you have a moment, please call." She called back. Daniel's voice was calm. He confirmed the deed, said there were no liens, and added that Julia supported her father's wishes. "He spoke of you with respect," he said. "He said you listened as if it were a craft." "It is," Emma said. "Then he chose well," Daniel replied. "If you go north, let me know. Old locks like to be courted." After the call, Emma sat on the floor. The past few months had been long nights and short tempers. Bills had multiplied. She loved the work, but the work did not always love her back. Yet, when she pictured a small house with a good window, her shoulders eased. She called her mother. Marta Reyes answered from San Antonio. They spoke about rent, a client who crocheted hats for church babies, and the bus line cutting stops. Emma told her about Thomas only after smaller things felt put away. She did not mention last breath. She did mention the key. "Ma," Emma said, "what would you do with a quiet place by the water?" Marta paused. "I would breathe," she said. "Then I would invite people who forget how to breathe." "That sounds right," Emma said. "Go see it," Marta added. "If it isn't for you, the road back still knows your name. The next morning, Emma asked for 2 days off. Her supervisor, Haley Quinto, studied the request and then Emma's face. "You never ask for anything," Haley said. "Take 3. 2 is fine," Emma said. "Take 3, Haley repeated, signing. "Bring me back a shell." Ava offered to drive as far as Portsmouth. They left before dawn in Ava's hatchback. The highway was a straight thought. Emma dozed and woke to marsh and bridges, and then the first look at the Atlantic, pewter under a pale sun. They stopped for gas and split a basket of hot fries. "Text me when you land," Ava said, dropping Emma at a bus station for the last stretch. "If the house is a secret lighthouse, I want in." "Deal," Emma said. By early afternoon, Ogunquit met her. She followed the map on foot, suitcase rolling through gull calls. Number 7B waited behind a lilac bush, a salt box with blue paint and white trim. The key turned, stubborn and then willing. Inside, dust held the air like a filter. The front room offered a window with light that looked like a promise. 2 chairs, a narrow table, and a piano against the inner wall. A small framed photo sat on top. A younger Thomas and a woman with wind-bright hair, both laughing. Emma lifted the cover. The keys were clean, but a half-step flat. She pressed middle C and felt it before she heard it. A vibration through wood into bone. The bench creaked a greeting. She was not a pianist, but anyone could press one note and learn a room. The note said the wood was tired, not sad. Near the bench, a scrap of masking tape clung to a floorboard. In faded ink, "Listen here." She peeled the tape and found a tiny envelope tucked in a seam. Inside, a slip of paper held a name, Eli Rowe, and a local number. Below it, one more sentence in Thomas's hand. "If the room won't open, call the man who knows where the sound sleeps." Emma looked at the piano, the window, the name. The house was quiet, the kind that doesn't press. She pulled out her phone, thumb steady enough, and dialed. Eli answered on the second ring, voice low and pleasant. Emma explained who she was and what she'd found. There was a pause, and then he said, "I know the place. Thomas called it the room with good weather. I tuned that piano 2 years ago." "It needs you again," Emma said. "Give me 20 minutes," he replied. 25 minutes later, a pickup rolled to the curb. Eli Rowe stepped out, late 30s, denim shirt, careful hands. Inside, he stood a moment, looking at the piano and then the window, like someone greeting old friends. "He really left it to you?" he said. "Not a question." Emma nodded. "I don't know what to do yet, but I think I know how it should feel. Quiet like a harbor," he said. "Exactly." He lifted the piano lid. The room seemed to lean closer, as string by string he brought the instrument to attention. Emma sat by the window and watched the light travel across the floorboards, a slow compass. "He talked about you," Eli said. "Thomas? Came by after a checkup last fall. Said a nurse taught him how to breathe at night." Emma felt heat in her throat. "I just kept him company." "That's rarer than people think," Eli said. The A above middle C found its shape. He tested a chord and smiled. "There it is," he said. The room opening its shoulders. Emma tugged a rolled rug across the front room. Together they unfurled it. Under the rug lay a long, shallow box built flush into the floor. Eli tapped the edges and found a brass latch. Inside, notebooks, all the same size, labeled by month in Thomas's hand, and a small wooden sign, "A good listening room." Emma traced the carved letters. The notebooks held names, dates, and lines like, "Sat with a fisherman, we shared the rain," or "The student who thinks his father won't forgive him. He is wrong, but he can't hear it yet." Beneath each entry, a line. Notes tuned, patience, warmth, breath. He already started, Emma whispered. Then we're not building from scratch, Eli said. We're continuing. They worked until late afternoon, dusting, coaxing stubborn switches, airing the curtains. Emma called Daniel to ask about permits. He promised to email a simple checklist. If you call it a community room, he said, the town clerk will likely smile. As they were stacking chairs, someone knocked. Julia Archer stood in the doorway, wind in her hair, a cardboard tube under her arm. I didn't want to intrude, she said, but I thought you might want this. She slid out an old photograph, enlarged and framed. Thomas and Joan at the piano, her head on his shoulder. Tucked behind the frame, a smaller photo showed a nurse at a bedside, name tag blurred, hands wrapped around a patient's fingers. On the back, someone had written, "The first listening room, the night Joan slept." Emma's eyes stung. "Thank you," she said. "Do you need help?" Julia asked. "Yes," Emma said. The three of them rearranged furniture until the space felt like a conversation. Chairs near the window, a small table for tea, a basket with blankets, the piano like a heartbeat at the center. Eli hung the wooden sign by the door. Just before dusk, a neighbor arrived with a pie. Her name was Nora Green. "Thomas and I used to trade book reviews," she said. "He wrote like a lighthouse." Emma poured tea. Nora sat, folded her hands, and, invited by the room's patience, began to talk. Her sister had moved into a memory care center inland. The empty between visits felt like a huge hallway. She did not want advice. She wanted a place for the words to feel held. Emma listened the way Thomas had described. Patience. Warmth. Breath. She asked small questions only when the quiet offered space. Eli slipped to the porch, leaving them a wide horizon. When Nora left, she touched the wooden sign and said, "Good." Emma stood alone a minute, letting the stillness settle. Her phone buzzed with a text from Haley. "How's the weather in your soul?" Emma typed, "Clearing." Eli returned. "First guest?" he asked. "First guest," Emma said. And the room worked. He nodded toward the piano. "Want to hear the window in a chord?" "Show me," she said. He played a simple progression, and the notes swelled and rested like breath. Emma felt how the sound tucked itself into corners and then drifted back like tide. Daniel's email arrived with the checklist. The community board met Thursday. They would need a safety inspection, a posted schedule, and a sentence with the purpose: listening, comfort, and quiet arts. "Quiet arts?" Emma asked. "Maybe the town clerk writes poetry," Eli said. They stepped outside. The sky shifted from pewter to pale rose. On the porch, a half-painted sign leaned against the rail. "Open soon, by intention." "Thomas," Emma murmured. They laughed, easy. And then, as dusk deepened, a car pulled to the curb. A man in a suit stepped out, checking his phone. He looked like someone late to his own life. He paused at the gate, as if deciding whether to knock. Emma felt the room behind her open its quiet hands, and wondered if this was the next person the house had been waiting to hold. The man lifted his eyes to meet hers. He hesitated at the gate, and for a moment Emma thought he might turn back. The wind nudged the lilac bush, scattering pale petals across the walk like hesitant applause. He stepped forward at last, smoothing his tie as if it could shield him from the world. "Are you open?" he asked. "Not officially," Emma said, "but maybe officially enough." He nodded once, quick, like a man who feared if he didn't move now, he never would. Inside, he stood in the middle of the room and looked around as though he'd walked into an echo of something he had lost years ago. "I saw the light," he said quietly. "I've been driving for hours." Emma gestured to the chair near the window. He sat, folded over his knees, and for a while said nothing, She did not press. She simply waited. The room had learned patience, and it offered some to her. When he spoke, his voice carried the sharp edges of something long held. "My son," he said, "college sophomore. We fought. I told him if he walked out, he didn't have a father. He walked out." Emma sat across from him, not too close, and let silence be a bridge. He rubbed his eyes with his thumb and forefinger. "I called last week," he went on. "His roommate said he was at a music festival. I imagined him dancing, happy. While I was still stuck at the night he left, I kept thinking I could rewind. I can't." "What's his name?" Emma asked. "Ben," he said, almost a whisper. She nodded. "That's a good name." He gave a broken laugh. He used to say the world sounded better in headphones. Maybe he was right. Maybe he just needed his own rhythm for a while, she said. His shoulders shook once, the body's memory of crying before the tears arrive. When they did, they came quietly. He pressed the heels of his hands to his eyes. Emma waited. When he lowered them, his face was stripped of all performance, only a father missing his son. "I don't know how to start," he said. "Start small," she said. "Call to ask how the music was." He let out a long breath. "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me," she said. "The room does most of the work." He stayed until the light thinned. When he left, he touched the sign by the door and said, "Tell whoever built this that they saved someone." "I will," Emma said. When the door closed, the quiet returned, soft as wool. Eli leaned in from the porch. "That one needed it." "They all will," Emma said. They cleaned the cups, dimmed the lamps. Later, Emma lay on the old sofa with a blanket, listening to the faint sea hush beyond the walls. Exhaustion hummed under her skin, but it was the kind that follows purpose, not burden. Her phone buzzed on the table. A text from Haley, "Missing your chaos." Emma typed, "I'm learning stillness. Tell the floor I said goodnight." She dreamed of Thomas. In the dream, he sat at the piano, playing a lullaby she half remembered from childhood. Joan stood beside him, humming. When he saw Emma, he smiled and said, "You made it breathe." Morning rose pale and clean. The room smelled of salt and pine. Julia returned with coffee and a stack of flyers she had printed overnight. "Grand opening Saturday," they read. "The listening room, a space for quiet, kindness, and beginning again." "Too sentimental?" Julia asked. "Perfect," Emma said. Throughout the day, neighbors stopped by. Someone left a quilt. Someone brought books. Someone offered to teach gentle yoga on Sundays. Nora returned with sheet music from her attic. Eli tuned the last stubborn key and painted the porch rail. The house filled not with noise, but with lives. As dusk deepened, Emma sat at the piano. She pressed a single note. It lingered, curved through the rafters, settled into the floorboards like something claiming its name. Eli stood at the window, watching gulls wheel above the surf. Julia handed Emma a framed photo. Thomas, eyes bright, hands resting on a piano he hadn't yet played. "For the wall," Julia said. Emma hung it near the door. Under it she placed the wooden sign, "A good listening room." And beneath that, in new careful letters, she added, "For anyone who forgot how to be heard." When the first guests arrived that Saturday, the garden was bright with wild daisies, the same flowers Thomas had planted in the side yard long ago. People came hesitantly, as if unsure they deserved gentleness. Emma greeted each by name, showed them the window, offered tea. Some spoke, some didn't. Both were welcome. That night, after the last person left and the lamps were low, Emma sat alone in the quiet she had built. The piano waited. The notebooks lined the shelf. The sea hummed its endless lullaby beyond the dark. She thought of the hospital room where it began, the steady beep, the warm weight of a fading hand. She thought of Thomas saying, "Small truths hold things together." She understood now. The truth was this: he had not left her something to finish. He had given her something to begin. Emma rested her hand on the piano lid, and for the first time in years, the world inside her and the world outside her felt like the same song. She closed her eyes, breathed deep, and let the silence hold her the way she would hold everyone who walked through this door. Outside, the tide came in, steady and sure, carrying the night toward morning. The last lamp dimmed. Emma stood in the doorway, the sea's breath cool on her face. This room was no longer his gift. It was hers to carry. She smiled, soft and certain, and whispered to the quiet, "Every ending can be someone else's beginning."